Thank you, guys. Thank you, Samantha. Listen, I love the word brilliant. I'm so brilliant. When the senator and I were coming out here, I opened the door to go to the bathroom instead of coming out. He goes, "Do you have to go?" I went, no. I tell you guys, I just got off of a plane. Last night I was on the Emmys red carpet with Lainey Wilson, Noah Wiley before he won, and Owen Cooper, the little guy from Adolescence. If you haven't seen Adolescence, go see it. And tonight I'm on stage with you, Senator Manchin. Look at my life.
My honor.
Look at my life. And the way air travel is today, I was a nervous wreck because I booked 3 different reservations in case something canceled. You know, they say it's on time and you get there and then it's delayed, or you get there and there's no crew, or you get there and, you know, what, fill in the blank. But I got here and came right here, and I'm so delighted to be here tonight. So I agreed to do this interview with you maybe months ago. And at the time, I thought the reason why I want to talk to you is because you've always seemed sane to me. And I live in a time where I really do, honestly, I crave joy and I crave sanity. And this was before the very tragic events of last week, which I have to tell you, I looked at the video and I'm haunted by it. I'm still so upset by what I saw and the where we are in the country today. So I think this book, do you mind if I hold up the book? No. It's there, dead center.
Yeah.
I read it last week. This book seems more relevant and more important to me now than ever before. But before we dive into the book, I want to know what you're thinking about where we are. And you know, people keep saying, this isn't who we are as a country. Everybody should be allowed to speak. And I think, yeah. But we're still doing it. Maybe, is this who we are as a country? Is it?
Well, I think you need to know what time we're in right now. We're in a time when social media, and there's so much, I know, here they come. Thank you so much. This is what we expect today, and you know, this is part of America.
I know, but Joe, wait, let's just take that in for just a second.
Have you not been through this before?
No.
Oh, so
I'm very rattled by that. I mean, I heard all the footsteps, and I wasn't quite sure what was happening.
I saw as soon as I saw.
You did?
This is my third.
Were they sitting down?
Oh yeah, they were right over there.
Mm-hmm.
They come in early. They look like they're just normal.
Yes, I'm rattled by that for just a
group.
second.
This is what they call climate defiance.
Yes.
They have followed me all over. They don't like my stand on energy. And I said, listen, I'm going to make sure that our country has the energy today that we need better than ever before while we invest for the energy we need for tomorrow. We want a carbon-free, carbon-less, carbon-free.
And they're upset with you, why?
They're upset for me because they say that they don't want any fossil whatsoever. I says, how do you run the country? How do you defend the country? Mm-hmm. And if we stop using every ounce of fossil in America, it doesn't change the scope as far as climate, because 90% of all pollution is coming from just Asia right now because they're burning so much. But it is what you deal with today. But that's fine as long. This one kid in that group, I was at Harvard speaking, and he jumped up and this and that, and I mean, just belligerent as can be. And I try to keep my cool, and I says, enough's enough. And I went up, and where's John? My buddy John right there is with me all the time, John Cott. And John says, Joe, you can't hit him. Mm-hmm. I says,
you were not going to hit him.
I was going to choke him pretty good. But anyway, I says, okay, John. And I turned around, and John threw him out, picked him by the pants and threw him out the door. I says, how come you could do that? He says, I can do that, you can't.
But we live in a society where America, free speech, you ought to be able to say what you want, where you want. Is that a good example of that?
Yeah, I mean, would I wish it didn't happen? For you all, I wish it didn't happen. But this is what we deal with today. And what we've seen is when words have meanings to them, and words usually followed by action. Uh-huh. And what we saw last week, Charlie Kirk, is the action that follows words. And we've got to be very careful. So how do you tone it down? What I was just going to tell you before they jumped up is that in our society today...
Wait, before they jumped up, did you know that was going to happen?
No, I told everyone to be prepared.
You did?
Because they usually send up, whenever there's a public notice that I'm going
I wish somebody would have told me, because I'm like, what the hell is happening here? I mean, oh my God. Well, my heart, I got to check my Apple Watch, see what my heart rate is doing right now. Because it's normally 58. Oh my God. It's now 75.
And you're alive. They would have done this. What they want to do, they'll jump up if the security wasn't here.
But they won't come on the stage.
And these security thank you all. You all have done a wonderful job. And I will say, of all 4 places I've had this happen, this is the best and quickest security was able to take care, stop it.
They did handle it very quickly.
They wanted to be up here. They would have come up on stage. They'd jumped up here right.
Oh, they would have.
Oh, yeah. Hold up signs, do all that kind of stuff. Wow. Anyway, let's get back to what we're here.
Yeah, let's go back. When you first heard it and when you first heard that he had been shot that way.
I did not follow Charlie Kirk, so I didn't know a whole lot. It wasn't. The only thing I knew, here's a young man who was willing to go to campuses and talk to people.
Yes.
Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Not an elected politician. He's doing it. He's going to college campuses, which is what you ought to be able to do.
He's driven.
Yes.
If you're going to do it anywhere, college campuses where you should be able to go and speak about, things that are going on and what you want to see and changes in the world. So with that, and then you see a father, 2 young daughters.
Yes.
A wife who's a widow. It's not who we are, and politics should not be. We've always had protest, and I'm fine with protest, but violence cannot be accepted because you know what's hard? I can't get people to run. I ask people, I said, how many in this room would raise your hand if you would run for public office? I would not embarrass anybody, but I would say there's not very many because they don't want to put themselves through it.
But we all agree, Senator, this is wrong. This is not how you handle it. But it doesn't seem to change. I mean, at what point do we start saying to ourselves, maybe this is who we are? Do you not think that this is who we are? I'm very, very worried about that.
Let me give you an example of what I thought would change things way back when. The thing that probably rattled me more in public office than anything else is when the Sandy Hook shooting and these little babies, first and second graders, got just savagely taken life away from them. And it went through me, and I'm thinking we've got to have at least background checks so that people that might be.
And you said you were a responsible gun owner.
It's Manchin, Toomey, Bill, and I was telling everyone, I says, you've got to do something. They said, well, you come from a gun culture in West Virginia. I says, I do, but I was taught gun sense. And they said, well, why don't you write a bill? I started writing a bill, and I needed Republican support for this. You don't ban things. You make people go through different things to be responsible. So rather than saying, well, you can't buy this, no, I'd rather teach you how to use it and see if you're responsible enough to even have it. So there's ways we could approach this differently. Well, we went through that, and when it came down to it, it only had 56 votes.
Yeah.
And I thought it was approved 80%. If 80% of the public wanted this to happen, and only 56 out of 100, or 56% of the Senate would vote for it, and you had 20 children that just got, their lives taken from them and their families, and that wouldn't move people?
Yep.
So if you're thinking what happened last week is going to move us, it's not going to move the political process in Washington. The strength of the politics and the power of politics and the money that goes into politics is stronger than anything else I've ever
So do
seen.
we just accept this?
No, not accept it at all. We live in a representative form of democracy, but more and more people are not being involved. They're not putting themselves out. They're not either supporting, voting, basically getting involved one way or another, or running for office. And when you have people that quit caring, all you have left is people who don't care. And what you're getting is people they're there for fame and fortune. If you want to be in Washington as a congressperson or a senator, you can get all the notoriety you want every day. The worldwide press is right there at your beck and call. And you know that. You can say anything and beyond that.
Yeah.
They'll but I want to tell you all, you have relations. You all have relations with each other. And it's hard to say no to your friends and the relations you build. It's easy to say no to someone you don't know. And so what happens in Washington, we come in Monday at 5:30 for our first vote. They're on planes by 3 to 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. So we get Tuesday, Wednesday, half a day Thursday, and that evening of Monday. We don't hardly see each other unless we're in committees together. So having dinners or knowing who your family and what you like, your children, that relationship's not there. So we have nobody wanting to work together because they says, well, I'll just go my respective corner. You're not going to believe this. Do you know we only have one lunch, which we call bipartisan lunch, once a year? Where
Once a year?
Where Democrats and Republicans in the Senate have a joint lunch. And it used to be every week back in the 70s and 80s and up until the early 90s.
Is attendance mandatory?
No, but everyone, I think they, out of respect, they tried to. It's Johnny Isaacson.
Yeah.
Johnny's passed away from Georgia. He was
Yeah.
a real centrist,
Yeah.
a great friend of mine. And he brought all the pork barbecue and all that up from Georgia, and they had a big barbecue, and everybody enjoyed it.
Well, there don't seem to be barbecues right now, and as we sit here September 15th, 2025, do you see anybody that's doing anything in the country to tap it down?
No,
Do you see
I see him
anybody?
talking about it a little bit, and I know the governor from Utah gave a very,
Yeah,
I think,
Governor Cox, I think, has been stellar during
a
this.
very gracious speech, and basically saying that he understands that we have to tap it down, we have to work together. It starts at the top, and I mean this, from the president to everybody's elected official. The representative form of government means you've voted for people that you want to represent you. Are they doing that? If they're not, you need to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get more people involved. Either you're going to represent me or you're going to basically go there for the party.
Mm-hmm.
And you're putting party basically before, you know.
How do you describe how Donald Trump is handling this situation?
Well, it's not the way, no. It's not the uniter that we should. We need uniting. The governor or the president should be the voice that starts the dialogue and starts dialing it down. And I'll guarantee you, both sides, you'll have still some extremes that'll basically speak out one way or another in favor or not. But if it starts right there, and I'd always said this, all of us have a better angel in us. Sometimes it's hard to find. But I do
But you
believe,
think we all have a better angel in us?
I really do. I like to think.
I actually think that most people want to do the right thing, and I think most people are good than bad. I actually believe that as well.
Yeah. But basically, if that that better angel is not encouraged to come out,
Yes.
then and you got more support because you're feeding raw meat to the crowd, if you will, and to the extremes, they're going to stay in that, and that's your modus operandum, and that's not good in this time. It's going to take, and if I have a chance to speak to President Trump, I would tell him. I said, sir, we need you now more than ever. The country needs you. And I would tell all my friends on the Democrat and Republican side, calling each other names this is not the time for that, because it's too highly charged right now.
You know, when you look back at your own career, how long have you been in politics?
I started in 1982,
We'll do the
42
math.
years.
Okay, 42 years. How long have you been married?
58 years.
58 years. I know, that's what I said, wow. And
He also, there's been 35 good ones in there somewhere.
and your wife, I love her name. What is it?
Gayle.
Yeah, well, I at least spelled the right way. But in all the time that you've been in office, you said you never voted for, you always put, for you, the vote that mattered was what was best for the people. You didn't put the party first. You didn't put your own personal needs first. What you wanted to do was what you thought was best for the people.
I'll tell you one
You
thing.
still believe that?
I do, with all my heart
When
and
you
soul.
look back on your record?
I,
Because some people would disagree with you about that.
I know
Go
they
ahead.
will,
Go ahead.
and we'll talk about that, and I know they do. I basically, when I first got into the political process, and then I thought about going to Washington, and I ended up being in Washington, which was November 15th, 2010. And you take an oath of office, and it's so surreal. And the Vice President of the United States gives you your oath. And it's really to defend and protect the Constitution. And, you know, by that time you should know the basic principles of the Constitution, we the people.
Yeah.
And it's an experiment. It's 240 years plus. We've had 200 really solid good years as our Constitution's been followed. We've had 40 years where it's kind of been challenged a little bit more, and more so now than ever before. But it's still the greatest, Constitution. It's the greatest government tool that we have in the world, and everyone has mimicked it. What we do, how do you defend it now? How do you keep it alive? Well, if people don't care, and no one wants to run, and no one wants to participate, and the system can't work because it is a form of self-governing. No one ever thought it could be done. And our founding fathers basically looked at everything around the world, and they didn't want to mimic anything that the monarch, as far as, the King George, And they made sure they wrote it and tried to basically think of every way they could to prevent that type of a person or that type of a government ever to rise its head in America. And we've been able to do that. Autocrats, bureaucrats, I mean, all these people here, people think, well, a person wants to be an autocrat. Everybody that gets to the pinnacle of power, whether you're a governor or you're a president, you're going to look at how far you can kind of push things to get things done.
But in the political world, I want to talk about Joe Biden's Build Back Better bill, because you made national news with that because everybody was on board seemingly except yourself. The president was calling you. You were getting calls from all of your friends.
For 8 months. 8 months.
For 8 months. And you were the lone voice at the time that just said no. And I'm wondering why you did that at a time when people said, look, you're ruining it for the rest of us. Yeah. We need you on this vote. The president himself called you, Joe Biden at the time, called you personally, and you still held strong.
I told him, I think.
What did you see that others didn't?
For a 2-year period, I think I was in the White House as much as he was, or maybe even more.
No,
I was called over.
You were called on the carpet.
All the time. But the bottom line, what I said, first of all, this is a nuance of how you run. The government, the rules that we operate under in the Senate has its set of rules, and we set those rules ourselves. And then the Congress has its set of rules. And we have what we call reconciliation. Reconciliation, first of all, we talk about a supermajority in the filibuster. You have to have 60 votes. The 60-vote threshold is basically, the founding fathers and George Washington said, the House will be hot as a hot cup of tea, because basically it'll be one-sided. Whoever's in control of the House, simple majority rules, and they shove it through. When it gets to the Senate is supposed to calm it down. When the Senate basically is like a saucer that cools it off, and it calms down. But that because you have to have both sides.
And it's caught in the saucer.
That's why we were called the most deliberate body.
Yeah.
You deliberate longer. It takes longer to pass laws, but it takes a lot longer to get rid of them once you pass it. So we became a very stable in the world, in the geopolitical world, because the United States had legislation. We had laws, the rule of law, that were stable. It didn't flip-flop back every time Congress or Parliament or something.
But I want to focus on this one because you took a lot of heat during that time, and I'm wondering what you saw that others didn't. Why did you think that you knew something that the majority of the people saw it very differently?
When President Biden first got elected, the first piece of legislation he did was the ARP, American Rescue Plan. I begged him not to do it. And I begged him not to do it for one reason. Mr. President, you're going to you're the one with the nuclear option coming out of the chute. You were the only one standing on the stage when you were debating all the different Democrats, and you were saying, I know how it works. I've been here 35 years. I can work back and forth with both sides. You are the most centrist person up there. You're coming out now saying that I don't want to talk to Republicans. We don't need any Republicans' votes. We're going to do this just with Democrats. And I said, sir, that's not how you run the Senate. Bob Byrd, he beat that into my head over the years. And he said, basically, the only thing reconciliation is used for is to make sure that your finances are good enough to run your country. So if it had a financial connotation, you could say, well, the other side doesn't want me to succeed, but we've got to do this for the sake of the country. So the majority party would go into reconciliation, which is what Republicans have done. He did that, and I begged him not to. He grabs my arm and says, Joe, I've got to have this. The country needs you. I says, Mr. President, I'm going to do this one time, but don't ask me again. I won't do it anymore. He knew that from the get-go. No sooner they did an American Rescue Plan, 3 weeks later, come back for BBB. I says, I told you I wouldn't do it.
Do it one time, yes.
Because we're not going to run. Put it out there. Let our Republicans have their, you have to have, in the Senate.
So in your mind, you had already given in once. You had already given in once, and you said, I'll do it this one time, but I'm not going to do it again.
No, because they were going to run, the 117th Congress would have been run out of 4 reconciliations, 2 in 2021 and 2 in 2022. And that's not how you run the government. It's not how you run the Senate. You have to have the minority participation. That's the whole process.
But how did you feel when you were getting hammered during that time by the President of the United States and from people that you respected and liked?
Well, yeah, I just knew that we could not do, and I finally had to tell the President, during COVID basically destroyed our psychic of our nation.
It did.
It truly did.
It did.
And then people became so dependent on government. And basically, they expected government to take care of them. And I told him, I said, in a democracy, I said, everyone has to participate. And I said, the bottom line is, Government should be your partner, not your provider.
Not your provider, yes.
We should be able to take care and have the compassion and take care of those who
Yeah,
can't take care of
but the
themselves.
thing about you, Senator, people thought you were being stubborn.
Sure.
You were grandstanding.
Oh, I know.
You were self-serving. And you said, I'm none of those things.
I wouldn't wish that on anybody else if I was self-serving that. Because the death threats we received from our family and all of us was unreal. So I know what people go through. And I always told my family, you're going to hear an awful lot of bad things. You're going to be this and that. And I said, it's a small price to pay for the country that we have and a life that we're able to enjoy. It's worth some sacrifices.
But you write this in the book, that you've seen people who felt the way you did, but they were afraid to speak up. And when people vote against their own beliefs, you say it's a racket. Now, that was back then. Don't you think it's even worse now that people are afraid to speak up?
It's more, they're even afraid more so now because of violence involved with it, not only just retaliation and not only just voting somebody out. It could be physical damage, physical violence, and people are scared of that. We cannot allow this type of fear take over our system, because we won't have the country we have if the only people that are running are people basically running for fame and fortune and not for the country. I said, there's only one party, the American Party. You might have a Democratic wing and you might have a Republican wing, but the Democratic means, what's our purpose?
But you tried to leave the Democratic Party. You became an independent. People said, well, he had to do that because he wasn't going to win.
Yeah, I wasn't going to run again either. After 42 years, enough was enough. I didn't want to be, I'm 78 years old. I didn't want to be carried out of the place. I've watched so many of my friends. It's a happy retirement home. It really is.
It's a happy retirement home.
It's
a happy retirement home.
Think about this. You have drivers. You have people that pick you up. You have people take your laundry, take care of your laundry. They do this and that and everything. And I've said, if you're in a safe seat and you're 75, 80 years old and you can stay there forever, you won't find a better retirement home than that.
Oh, wow.
So I'm being very honest. I'm just saying, I'm big on, I want to finish up on what you said, what I had to tell Joe Biden. It finally came down from March when they started working this bill, and by December, it was still working it. And he called me over to the White House, and it's in the book. You'll read it in the book.
It sounds like there were raised tones.
Not yet. It got raised after this. Anyway, so he looked, and I said, Mr. President, I just can't get there. I've tried. 8 months, I've looked at everything I could. And I said, you and I are about the same vintage. You're a little bit older than me.
Vintage, okay.
Vintage, we're vintage. And I said, and I'm a John Kennedy type of belief, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I said, Mr. President, you passed this piece of legislation, and you've changed the psychic of our nation to how much more can my country do for me. I wasn't raised that way. I don't believe that, and I can't vote for it, sir. And I even said this. I said, you could pull a gun out and shoot me right now, and I can't change my vote. And I start thinking twice, but when I said that, I said, I shouldn't have said that. Being in the most powerful place in the world.
But you are a man of your convictions in terms of when you really believe something. I was thinking in the book you were talking about confirming Brett Kavanaugh, even your own granddaughter, who you love very much, Miss Kelsey.
And she's right here
with me when you voted against, she was literally in the fetal position. What's your grandfather's name? Dadu. Asking Dadu, what the hell are you thinking? She probably didn't talk to you that way, but that was.
Oh, I'm sure that no, Kels, no, anything could have come out.
No, I'm sure she didn't say that to you. But she was literally in the fetal position crying, saying, why are you doing this?
So, I sat down with her and I went through all the things I went through to make my decision. It wasn't about politics.
That was not about politics?
No, this was a human being's life. I went back and checked. I did everything I could, I went back and did the FBI report. And everything I saw did not match up with the accusations against him, the charges. The accusation, I couldn't find that. Even from her best friends and his best friends did not collaborate what they were saying back and forth. So that gave me pause.
But other people saw it differently.
Other people were seeing it differently because she was very convincing. And I'm sure, very traumatized somehow, some way. Yeah. Took many years for that to come to that, until him at that level. But the bottom line is, he was an accomplished lawyer. He was well respected. Did his job 9 years on the D.C. court, which is one of the next highest court right next.
Do you regret that decision, considering where we are now?
Not on the
Supreme Court now has lost all sorts of public confidence at this point.
Yeah, but one person from the standpoint of that, this was a qualified human being who had served for nine or more years, I think, on the DC circuit, which is right next to the highest court, and done it with valor.
Now, I don't think anyone ever doubted his credentials.
Yeah, and I checked all that, so we never saw that. If that was going to come out, it never came out in any other hearings. Nothing ever was said, and nobody ever, I mean, he's a very conservative person, but if I'm just voting for people that have the same ideology that I have, I wouldn't be voting probably for very many people. The bottom line is, when a president puts a person before you, it's our to confirm, consent and confirm, okay? That's our job. Well, you got to look at the facts in front of you.
Yeah.
And the facts did not warrant me not supporting someone who was qualified, and nothing else really matched up with corroboration. And I knew it was against the grain. I knew that. And when I went through all that with Kelsey, I'm not sure, I mean, she accepted that, and I think she appreciated at least I explained to her all the steps I went through to come to my conclusion. She still didn't agree with me, but I think it made it easier for her to accept my
To
decision.
understand what you did. What does dead center mean to you? Because now we have such extremes on the left and on the right, but you said in your book, you write that you've been dead center your entire life.
Yeah, I never did look at one side. You know, the Democrats didn't have all the answers, and Republicans weren't always wrong. The Republicans, I was always a Democrat, I guess, because my grandfather and my whole state was mostly an overwhelming Democratic state. But the bottom line is you weren't expected to toe a line. You had to have a philosophy of this, or this. It basically is be who you want to be. Just make sure that you're compassionate. Okay, I say I'm fiscally responsible and socially compassionate. I don't think I should make you pay for something because I believe it's the right thing to do, but I put a burden on you. That's fiscal responsibility. Socially compassionate means don't forget a person who can't help themselves, who needs some assistance. That's governments. That's the moral values, moral obligation that we have. So I always felt that. But I always felt also, and I'll tell you all this, my Democrat friends were asking me one time, Joe, why are you kind of in disagreement with the Democratic Party? I said, the Washington Democratic Party is not the party, or not the ideals that I grew up with. I said, the party that I grew up with and knew was a Democratic Party that made sure that you had safe working conditions, you had good benefits, you had basically an assistance from the government that would help you have a better quality of life. It wasn't telling you how to live your life. It wasn't telling you what you should and shouldn't do. It was basically there to help you in tough times, but for you to help yourself. It never encroached on anything other. So then it finally got to the point I was asked by one of my dear friends who was a very much more liberal, and we were talking. And
What is her name? Okay, tell us initials.
No,
Joseph,
I
we
will
don't
tell.
speak
No, I
English.
will tell you because it was done in friendship. Elizabeth Warren and I were talking. She said, Joe, tell me what happened to the West Virginia Democrats. I said, Elizabeth, Democrats in West Virginia want to know what happened to the Washington Democrats. So I said, can I tell you honestly? She said, please do. So we talked. I says, basically, the West Virginia Democrats, the hardworking coal miners, the factory workers, all the people I knew and grew up with, because I never knew anybody loafed in my town, little town, 500 people. Everybody had to work. But anyway, I said, they believe now that the Washington Democratic Party spends more resources, time, and effort on able-bodied, capable people that don't work or won't work than those who do. I don't know how to tell you any different than that. That's what the people back home think,
Yeah.
that they're not getting the same as a person who could be doing what they're doing, making an effort to contribute to society.
You write in the book that the strength of our country is not defined by the office holder, but by the people.
It's always been about the people. You know, I've always had. I'll
Do you think that's true today? Because it seems the country's run very differently today.
The country is moving in a direction that's not healthy for us from the standpoint there's so much power, okay? You know, there was a time when Washington wasn't supposed to have any power. It was the states that wanted remainder power. The 10th Amendment, basically states' rights, that's why you have states saying, wait a minute, I'll take care of my own defense, I'll take care of my own security, I'll take care of my own voting. That's our right and responsibility.
But the way you write about it, you said the problem is never just the oval, it's the entire ecosystem.
The whole system feeds into that, okay? And when you become more dependent on certain areas, think how much money we put out. Let me give you an example of what money went out during COVID. The country's run about $5 trillion a year on cash, basically, if you look cash transaction. In that arena, $5.5 trillion. During COVID, So we're already programmed and budgeted out for $5 trillion. During COVID, it started in March of 2020, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
We all knew
February
about it.
2020. March was a shutdown. March
Right,
2020.
okay, February,
Yeah.
okay. During that period of time, from that until the end of the year, really, 9 months?
Yes.
We put $3.2 trillion in the market on top of the $5 trillion that we run the government. That's 3.2. That's hard to digest. It's hard for our system to basically digest and stay on top of all that and follow the money. Joe Biden comes in with ARP, comes in January. February, he wanted to do immediately the ARP, 1.9 trillion. Now we put 5.1. Within 1 year, we doubled the amount of cash we put in the financial system of America. You cannot digest that. You cannot make that right. That's too much. And that's what I was pushing back. And if they would have done the bill,
actually higher than that.
and if they would have done the bill back better,
Yes.
even later on, you heard people say that would have been a $10 trillion bill. We would have spiraled into not only a recession, but maybe a worldwide deep depression with the amount of money, the strain the American financial system would have put on the system.
Who are some of the Democrats and Republicans who are serving today that you admire, that you think he or she, they got it right, they're doing it right?
Well, of course, you got Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Those are two very good people, and they're there for the right reason. They truly are. Mitt Romney was there. He was a gem to work with.
Yes.
Mitt was really something special. And then Mark Warner's a dear friend of mine. Mark's heart's into it. He doesn't have to be there. Mm-hmm. He loves it. He's there basically, and he's one of the leaders in the.
Do you see many good people that are leaving because they just can't take it anymore?
I'm understanding. They're telling me there's about 10 that have said they're going to leave.
Yes.
Here's some of us are up in our 70s, and I understand them. Jean Shaheen and I.
Yes.
Okay, Jean's a wonderful.
New Hampshire, yeah.
From New Hampshire, absolutely wonderful. She's a former governor also. And we're just in our life, time to do something else with our family and be able to spend some time since we've still been gifted with good health. Some of these people at 50, 55, and 60 leaving now that really got the grips on thinking, really do something.
Yeah.
I guess they just don't want to fight the good fight anymore.
Do you still communicate with many people that are in Congress now?
Yeah. Oh, when I see something going on, I call and I say, come on, we're better than that, guys. Mm-hmm. Come on. Tell me how I can help, whatever. And I tell them they can still come down to the boat and we'll feed them as long as, the thing about my old, trust me, it's not a yacht. It's a big house, it's not a houseboat, but it's a big trawler. And I'd bring them down and I'd say, okay, if you're coming down, if you're going to have 4 guys coming, I want 4, if 4 Democrats are coming, I want 4 Republicans.
Yeah.
You just can't come down just in a partisan. So we always had kind of balance back and forth. And I'll tell you, at the end of the night, I got to give you one quick story about the boat.
Well, I always believe it's hard to hate up close, but the dinners on your boat, they say, were legendary in terms of how people would walk in feeling one way and walk out. Because it's hard to hate up close when you sit and you talk.
Tom Harkin from Iowa. Tom is a wonderful person. Really, he would be, we call him liberal. Today, I guess they call him progressive. I'm not sure which.
Yeah.
But Tom was more left, okay? Tom was the most compassionate person. Wonderful human being. I loved him. And I said, Tom, come down to the boat. And he said, okay, Joe, I'll come. So he's on the boat. And I gave him a glass of wine. He was sitting there and we were talking. He said, Joe, he says, you know what? I've been here 30 years and never been on the Potomac River. I said, well, Tom, tonight's going to be a great night. And I said, we got a few more senators coming. Then we're going to cast off. Here come Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is walking down the dock. Tom says, I'm going to get off this damn boat right now. I said, Tom, have another glass of wine. Things will be fine. I mean, we unhooked the boat as quick as we could as soon as they got on so we could get away from the dock. And I want to tell you something. They just didn't know each other. And I've said this. I've watched it up close and personal. By the end of the evening, those two were talking. You couldn't almost separate. They wanted to talk. They did an amendment the next day on a really good piece of legislation that helped an awful lot of people that were having trouble in nursing homes. I've seen it happen. But what happens?
So you know it's possible.
It's possible. So I still have hope. That's why they keep saying.
I was going to ask you. You still have hope.
I do.
Are you scared?
I'm scared because basically, and we talked about this, and Heather and all of us were talking. My wife Gayle and all of us were talking today that you all can basically, we listened to our family after the tragedy of last week,
Yes.
and we had friends and family start saying, well, I just unfriended that person. I just unfriended that person. I says, what'd you do? Just click. You never called them and told them you were upset with what they just said. You never had any conversation. You just went click. So when you can click on and click off, guys, we're in a different world right now. It used to be if I had to click, if I wanted to click, I want to come talk to you.
You'd call,
and say,
yeah.
I'm so sorry, Gayle. I don't like what you said. Can you tell me why you feel that way and why you're so emotional about it?
Were people that civil? It was really like that? Seriously, that does that mean say, I didn't really like what you said. Could you please? Did that really happen?
Oh, no.
Because I'm trying to figure out when did it get this
when
bad?
Did it? Okay.
I'm trying.
Well, I think
I really
yeah.
am wondering, when did it get this bad?
Yeah. What is it going to take to change? I think is what you're asking too. Will it change?
That too.
Will it get good again? But how has it ever been this bad? No, we've never had this instant communication. We've never had this. And I'm worried now more about
With
AI.
social media, you mean?
Let me tell you what I think, and I think that even that the governor of Utah said something about we're talking about the tech platforms.
Yes.
There's no guardrails. They have what we call Section 230. There's a Section 230 in the code that protects them. They're not liable for what's on their platform. That has to change. We've tried to change it. And I asked some of the guys who were there in the early 1990s, why did you give them so much immunity? And they said, oh, Joe, this whole thing, we had DARPA, basically. The federal government, the internet was kind of begun out of DARPA, out of the federal government, and it moved into the private sector. The tech giants got it, and they start moving with it. And when they did, they said, we've got to have some protection here. We'll never get off the ground. Yeah. They could have given a 5-year hiatus, that's all. This has been going on now for total protection, and we're seeing you can do everything and find out how to do anything on the internet. Build anything you want, do all the destruction.
Yeah, and also I think, you're on the internet and it gives you, I call it keyboard courage. You can say stuff you would never say to someone's face. And you can say it with no accountability. What do you think? Are there 3 things that you think Americans can do that we could all do?
Well, I think on that, basically, is we could push our legislators to basically rein in our tech so that you're held accountable and responsible. Yeah. It'll make them have pause before, because AI is coming. And now with AI, gang, it's a whole nother game. And if we don't do something to put guardrails on it, God help us all. We won't know who's talking to who. We won't know whose voice is what. We won't know what picture is real. We won't know any of these things. So something has to be done. And that's because you have to get involved. You have to ask I'm going to give you another couple hints. When you meet somebody and it's somebody that you that have elected, and they introduce themselves, I'm Senator Joe Manchin. If I put my title before my name, 90% of the time you're going to have a problem with me, because I think my title is much more important as me as a person. When the person says, I'm Joe, or I'm Jim, or I'm John, or I'm Kathy, or I'm Gene, you're okay. They're still the same person. They're still grounded. Sometimes the power goes to them because I can tell you, it just does something to some people, and I've seen it happen. And that's the thing you should be concerned about when you meet someone like that. The other thing is term limits. If we had term limits now, and I'll tell you this, yes. I was in southern West Virginia maybe 15 years ago. I was governor, and a lady in the back, we had a town hall with a couple hundred people, and she said, Joe, I wish you were for term limits. And at the time I was not. And I told her, no, I don't think. I think because you're losing the expertise, people to have this, have knowledge and have seniority here. It's very helpful. She said, just think about this, Joe. If there was term limits, maybe we get one good term out of you.
She said that about you, yeah.
I says, you've converted me. She's absolutely right, because I knew it would give people courage for at least one term. And one term, if you had, let's say you had 6 2-year terms as Congress. Yeah. After 10 years, maybe that last term, you'd have the courage to say, nah, I'm going to do this.
I'm going to do this.
I don't have to answer nobody. I don't have to be worried about getting reelected.
Senator, these are questions from the audience.
Yep.
David from West Virginia. What do you believe is the most critical issue the country is facing today? And how can you continue to have a positive impact now that you have, in quotes, retired?
Well, first of all, my daughter Heather, we wouldn't have a book if it wasn't for Heather, because I've given up on that book about a couple years ago. And nobody had my voice. I'd have a writer, and I'd tell him what a story or what was going on. And And they give me a chapter back, and I read the chapter. I said, that's not me. So then about a year ago, Heather said, Joe, she said, Dad, let's try it. And I said, honey, yeah, if you want to do it, we'll try it.
That's right.
So we started, and every night. So I'm a person who truly, I didn't write. She did the writing, but I helped. I was the editor. I did the edit, and I says, no, honey, it didn't do that way. It went this way.
Yeah.
I helped her. But the bottom line, I know my own book. I read my own book, and I have an audio out that even me, 4 days, stuck in a studio reading my book.
And did the audio.
I did.
That's actually very difficult to do, too. Did you drink lots of water?
A lot of water, a lot of hydration, yeah. And let me tell you.
Take a lot of bathroom breaks? Now, here's another question for you. What would an ideal centrist approach be towards Ukraine?
Let me tell you one thing on what our country is doing to Ukraine and what President Trump's administration is doing and not taking advantage of by helping Ukraine really put Putin in his place or show the world who he is catastrophic. And I mean that.
What did you think about the meeting that they had?
They were awful. They were just awful. The bottom line is, I was on intel. We know what his intentions are. His intention are being a Bolshevik, basically, mentality is to put Mother Russia back.
Why do you think he doesn't take a hard line against Putin? He says he's going to.
Now that I don't know. I don't know, but he's going to have to answer to that sooner or later. And let me tell you, you have 80 senators. Out of 100, 80. So you know you got 35 Republicans and the rest Democrats all believe that basically we should sanction Russia, put Putin in his place, and support Ukraine.
But that hasn't
happened. And it hasn't come up yet.
Yeah.
So John Thune, my friend, majority leader on the Republican in the Senate, is going to have to make a decision sooner or later and say, Mr. President, we have members here that want this to happen, and it has to happen. So I'm hoping that they push that. But now, I don't need to tell you, but basically, when you have a friend that you think has betrayed you or left you or didn't have your back, and then you really need that friend, they're going to think twice before they come to your aid. We have a lot of allies around the world with the trade and some of the things that's happening right now that gives them pause to think, wait a minute, are they going to be there for me? They weren't there for Ukraine. And we made a deal with Ukraine back in the 90s under President Clinton, give up your nuclear weapons and we will protect you. We didn't fulfill that. So we're in a situation that's very, very vulnerable right now. Poland had drones thrown in on them. All of Europe, the Baltics are all very much concerned right now. So we're in a situation that is very volatile to where if we needed them, are they going to be there for us?
This is one. I'm a proud Democrat, a huge fan of yours, he says, or she says. I really appreciate what you've said about bipartisanship in the past. But today, with President Trump breaking much of the bipartisan something of the last 20 years, how do we as a party move forward? Breaking much of the bipartisan consensus, bipartisan consensus.
Yeah.
The last 20 years.
Democratic Party, first of all, whenever a president's elected and you believe in the process, how they got elected, and we're a representative form of government, that means you have to accept the people's will. If you accept the people's will, and the president's elected, you might not like the person, might not be the party, might not be the philosophy, might not be anything you like about the person. But if you like the system we have in our democracy and our government, you want to do all you can to help him. But you got to speak truth to power. And the thing is happening right now, the Democrat should basically say this. When Joe Biden came in and they took a position on immigration about asylum at the border, we have never done asylum at the border. We just never turn people loose and says, we'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
That was so wrong. And you saw what happened. Now, they can say that, after COVID, we were so compassionate about people that were stranded around the world. Yeah. You can give all the reasons why you did what you did, but say you made a mistake. Hindsight, we made a mistake. I want to work with the president. I want to work with him to secure the border and keep it secured. But I want the president to work with me on a legal immigration reform. We need legal immigration. We need people here for the right reason. We need to attract more people to keep this economy flourishing.
But there was a bipartisan plan for immigration.
We had it.
Yeah.
And what happened? We passed it in the Senate.
Yep.
It went over to the House. We passed it with 68. You wouldn't be talking here about immigration if that bill would have passed when it did. And I think it was in 2015. I forget. What was it, John? 2013. And we had 68. We had a gang of 8 and 68. It passed. It was really well done. Secured the border. Did it all. Gave a pathway. It gave dreamers a pathway forward.
Yeah.
It gave everybody that was here for the right reason and showed that they've been here for the right reason and been good contributing citizens. They had a pathway forward. They had to get in the back of the line, but yet they would have been able to become legal citizens. It went over to the House, and John Boehner, God love him, I really like John. I called and I said, John, put it on the floor. It will pass if you put it on the floor.
But he wouldn't put it on the floor.
He said, Joe, I can't put it on the floor because Eric Cantor just got defeated in Richmond District, and he got defeated because a guy said Eric Cantor supported this piece of legislation, and they called that amnesty. So the far right, the extreme far right said anybody that was here illegally and got to stay or become a citizen any way, shape, or form, that was a form of amnesty, and they were against it and defeated him on that one thing.
But see, this is what I think is so upsetting for people when they watch politics. Everything seems so quid pro quo or tit for tat. How does anything get done?
We had a chance to codify Roe v. Wade.
Yes. Yeah.
With the Dobbs decision,
Yes.
we said, okay, why don't we just codify? Whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, we had 50 years of the rules of, no, it wasn't law because it never did go through a legislation. It was precedented law. Mm-hmm. It was basically the courts had ruled on it. We learned how to navigate it for 50 years. And in the most divisive time of our country, they're going to blow that apart and throw it into the hands of every state. When we could have, you know what kept it from doing it? The Democrats wanted to open up completely wide again. Open up abortions very wide. And then the Republicans were so far to the right, they wanted no abortions under any conditions and penalties to abortions. It got to the point that politics basically ruined a piece of legislation that Lisa, Susan, myself signed on to have basically codify Roe v. Wade.
Next question, Senator Manchin, your book is entitled Dead Center. Do you believe centrism or moderation is a virtue in and of itself?
Well, I always say you're a product of who you are and how you were raised and who raised you. I was just raised that my words, I would be held accountable and responsible for my words and my action. Usually words will lead to action. If I'm not checked as a young child and I'm saying things, I can guarantee you, if I can say it and get by with it, I'll do it. That's just human nature.
Yes.
You test the boundaries all the time.
These 3-year-olds are very crafty. Yes.
So I was taught at a very young age you were going to be held responsible
For what you say.
and accountable for your words and your actions. And I grew with that. And I just, my grandmother, most loving person in the world. We didn't in the 1950s, and there was no safety nets. Those of you old enough, I think my cousins are here, Chip and Rose and all of them, and I just love them dearly. But we all grew up in this little town, and Mama Kay had a basement, and we had to whitewash the basement. She took everybody in. If you were homeless or you were hungry, but she had rules. Mm-hmm. She said couldn't drink, couldn't cuss, and you had to work. Mm-hmm. And so we had all these people. We had Wheelbarrow Willie, Peg Leg Peggy. We had names for everybody.
Couldn't drink.
Couldn't drink, couldn't cuss, and you had to work.
Had to work.
So if I'd come home one day from school and I said, hey, Mama Kay, where's Deloy today? She says, oh, honey, he's back on the toot again. But he'll be back in 6 weeks. See, anyone that's been, you understand, if you've been in these communities, this is the way things were. So I learned to have that compassion. She had compassion for everybody, but she had rules. So they would say, well, how did you make those votes, Joe? How did you stay true to that,
Yes.
like I'm trying to grandstand?
Yes.
I said, no, I'm not.
Yes.
That's how I was raised.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said this, they said child care. I said, do you understand child care? The people that need child care are people working themselves out of poverty up until, let's say, $75,000 of income, from 0 to 75, or marry a couple 150. And then if we have the money, we can go further with that. But let's get these people and lift them up. But don't you think that if you're going to contribute your tax dollars to child care, that the people should be working? I says, why would I give child care to people that don't work? They're sitting home. They should be taking care of their children. And the incentive should be go to work and we'll help you take care of your children.
Yes.
I got chastised from the Democratic Party.
This is how we sort of started the conversation. Is bipartisanship still possible for our country? You said you have hope.
You have hope. You have to. They all want to work together.
Do they?
They're afraid. They're
No, no,
afraid to
no.
work together. They are afraid. When I say they all, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I was stretched out a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's say that I still believe that most of them, it's tough to get elected. You see the grind you go through. And you have to think there's more to it than just saying, well, I just like to be a senator. I like to be a congressperson. There's got to be something driving you.
I just don't think most people thought that they could lose their lives the way that it seems very. Are you nervous as you're out doing the book tour?
Well, I don't think I'm a threat to people other than the people that just are mad at thinking that on this whole climate thing. And I says, God, we're in better shape today than we've been along. But I says, I'm concerned about this administration taking away an awful lot of the checks and balances that we had in place. We were moving in the right direction. We produced more energy than anybody in the world's ever produced.
But when the President of the United States comes after you and name checks people the way he does.
Yeah, that's extremely dangerous in the president.
I think that that's very dangerous.
Yes, but all of us, there's a way to respectfully ask the person to do something.
Yes.
Your tone of voice of how you do it.
I agree.
And I've always said this, he's going to get, he's volatile. He'll get upset and say things, and we all have said things we don't mean. You can say, well, he really means them when he says it. I don't know how you feel about that, but I can tell you how to respond. When the president calls you all these names, and boom, 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 there's your this and this and this and this, just say, oh, he really doesn't mean that. He's my best friend. Drives him crazy. He's my best friend.
Okay, we should all keep that in mind when he comes for us. Okay, he's my best friend. The foreword is written, I'll close with this because I think it sums it up nicely. Nick Saban, we all know Nick Saban. You guys are actually friends. You grew up in the same area.
We grew up. I never knew his name was Nick. Coach Saban from Alabama.
Because his name is, yeah. Saban.
Brother.
Brother, yeah.
So I always knew him as brother because his older sister, Deanie, and his mother had a little, he lived 3 miles over from me. I'm in one coal camp, Farmington. He's another coal camp. It's over in what we call Worthington. And they were on an intersection there, and his dad had a golf station. His mother had a little Dairy Queen. And she would say, Deanie, go tell Brother Nick Jr., because his dad was Nick, tell your little brother this. Tell your little brother, go get this.
So she called him brother.
So we kept hearing brother, little brother, hey, brother. So she starts saying, not little brother, but just brother. Well, we thought that was his name, brother. Sounded pretty good to us. So he grew up as brother. I said, but by the time he's about 20 years old, I says, is your name really Nick? And, but we've been very close, and we had 2 fathers who were pretty demanding, and their motto was, it's not good enough.
Oh, I like that.
Not good
well,
enough.
Brother has written the foreword to the book Dead Center. He says, this book is a reminder that unity isn't weakness, it's wisdom, that compromise isn't surrender, it's how things get done. Joe has been in the middle of some of the biggest decisions of our time, and he's never flinched from doing what he thought was right. Sums it up right about you, right?
If you can explain it, if you can go home and look people in the eye and explain it, they might not agree with you, but you better have a process of how you made a decision. If you do that, then a person has done their job. They've done their job. And if you can't change your mind, you can't change anything. So I might think I had all the answers. You provide to me some other facts. If I can't change my mind, I'm the wrong person. So I've been able to change. I've been able to do whatever.
Are you able to admit when you're wrong?
Oh, in a heartbeat. I'll tell you a perfect example of this one final story. It had to be during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and that had to be in 2011, 2012. Mm-hmm. We're still in the throes of the Iraq-Iran war. And Don't Ask, Don't Tell was basically something that Bill Clinton put in because he said he still wanted people to serve with honor.
Yes.
Didn't know what their sexual preferences was, but they were still serving. Mm-hmm. And we needed the people in there, and they were doing their job. But, if you were homosexual, then you couldn't be in the service. Mm-hmm. So just don't ask, don't tell. That's how that came about. Now they were going to basically eliminate it completely, okay? There'd be no barriers whatsoever. So we're in the throes of a war, and we had Joint Chiefs of Staff, and you're in the Armed Services Committee. You have all of these Joint Chiefs of Staff of every division of our military. And they were asking him, and I know that the Obama administration was pushing it hard to get rid of it. And I'm thinking, okay, I want to hear from them. It got down to the Commandant of the Marines, and he says, I just want all of you senators to know this. I've got 50% of my soldiers deployed into combat. This is a major change that you're asking for in the middle of a combat that I think it could be detrimental, could be life-changing, and it could be life-threatening. I think you should wait. I took that seriously, so I didn't support getting rid of it then. And guess what? Commandant was wrong. It didn't. It went ahead and passed.
Yeah.
I didn't vote, but it passed. So I'm sitting, and I'm being in a setting that we had MCs. They were asking me questions back and forth. Steve Clemens, I think you know Steve.
Yeah.
He was asking me, and Rachel Maddow happened to be there too. She said, "Oh, I've got a question. I want to ask Senator Manchin a question. Senator, almost like, are you homophobic?" And basically,
Yeah.
and she says, "Because you didn't support getting rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell." I said, "Rachel, I made a mistake. And public, television, everything, I made a mistake. I thought that I took seriously, and I think that the general was sincere about what he said.
Yeah.
But the facts weren't there to back up what he was saying."
Those 4 words could do a lot of healing. And I
Yeah.
want to close with this. When we were talking about hope, I thought you were going to talk about Heather's Americas Together.
I am going to talk about that, because if I don't, I can't get off this stage.
And we will close with that.
We'll close with this. Heather,
For a
my
minute
daughter.
over time.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
my daughter Heather basically said, "Dad, do you know what business you're involved in?" And I says, "I'm not involved in a business. I'm a public servant. I'm a U.S. senator. I'm in public service." She says, No. You're involved in a business. It's a duopoly. It's controlled by the corporation of a Democrat corporation and a Republican corporation. And let me show you how the money moves. And let me show you how they control it, so people really can't impregnate that, or basically break the corporate veil, if you would. That might be the best way to put it. And we have now, we started a 501c4. If you do nothing else, just get on americanstogether.com, and it'll show you wherever you live how you're governed and how you could change it. I think that's the best for me to explain it.
We all know how to get on a computer. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you all.